but it was a way to make money.
If I died before I wake,
Try to move the shoulder blades back and down. So I'll set goals on a weekly basis, monthly basis, yearly basis, more long term then. But it's kind of, I think it's very important to not set your goals so long term, set them shorter, right? Because if you set short term goals that are achievable, it's a positive reinforcement to move forward, right? So if you go and say, all right, I'm going to do this in this training session today, and you get it done, you kind of check that off and you move on, and it's a positive reinforcement. But if you set your goals, if at the start I would have said, right, I'm going to go win World's Strongest Man, and that's my only goal, there's so many steps along the way that I probably would have got kind of frustrated and said, I'm not getting close enough, or it seems too far away, or whatever. And so I think setting smaller goals along the way is very important on your journey, right? Because you get that positive reinforcement, you take the next step, you take the next step, you take the next step. So, it doesn't have to be big stuff, right? I mean, one day you could set a goal of drinking all the water you should, or eating all the meals you should, or getting enough sleep. Things like this on a weekly basis. I mean, I have sometimes on my refrigerator, I have, my diet laid out, like taped up there on the refrigerator, and then I have a check mark. I put a little post-it note every day of the week that I eat all the meals that I'm supposed to. I get a check mark that I did everything I was supposed to do that day. So things like that along the way, certainly have helped me. I talked to all the older guys, right? When I started Strongman, one of the things that helped me the most is I went and talked to all the guys that have been doing it for 10, 15, 20 years, right? And you can learn the most from those guys because they've been through all the shit and they had to figure it out the hard way. And if you take a second to talk to them, one of the things I asked them, one of the interesting questions to me was, when were you your strongest? At what point in your life, age-wise, were you your strongest? And almost across the board, the answer that I got was late 30s to almost 40. Mid to late 30s, almost 40, right? But this is also avoiding injuries, training smart, being consistent over those years, right? Because building strength is a marathon, it's not a sprint, right? Stretching might be more important than the ice baths. I would say, you want to make sure that your mobility and your flexibility is there, because flexibility equals strength, right? So if you think about it, when a muscle contracts, the muscle fibers glide over one another, right? So if you can only get to a certain range of motion and you can't get all the way through the range of motion, or you're always training with a shortened range of motion, something like that, if you're not strong and flexible enough to get through the entire range of motion, you're missing all of that strength. Does that make sense? So flexibility is very key to strength, but also to staying away from getting injured, right? Because if you can get into every range of motion and you can get there without essentially being in pain or forcing it, then any competitive environment, any event you do is never going to put you into a range of motion that you can't handle and that you're not comfortable with, right? So I'd say that, and then probably right behind that is the ice bath, just because it's amazing. Yeah. And two, I really like the fact that it's a mental challenge. I really do. I think it's very good mental training. I started to add in a little bit more meditation as well. And I think that's maybe one area that I can still improve, is my brain power, right? Even though I feel like I'm very mentally strong, it's just kind of clearing your head. That might improve my sleep a little bit more and my clarity and what I'm trying to get done. But I think that moment, it's just kind of, I have it outside, and it's just kind of hard to explain. It's like you see like the sky and the stars and all this in this moment when you're outside by yourself, and you can just visualize things that you want to have happen. And it's just an interesting moment when you're submerged completely, your entire body in very cold water, and it's cool, man. So I would say that on top of everything else is, it all kinds of, you want it all to fit together, like the bigger picture. So if you're not sleeping good, it doesn't really matter too much what you're doing for recovery. If your sleep's not on point, you're not going to get that benefit, So anybody that comes at me with a study, saying that somebody wrote something about ice bath being bad for you or something, I'm not trying to be mean, but most of the time I say whoever wrote that study is probably too much of a pussy to get in the ice bath, right? Let's try to press it one time there. And then try, like I said, with the feet, spread the floor and push your knees out over your toes and hips back. Good. So take a half step out if you can. Good. Hips come back a little bit further. Push the knees over the toes. There you go. Good. Now up. Good. One more. Good. How did that feel? Wider? Better? So I think that honestly, just with your build, right? If you can just have your toes come out, just like you did. When you stepped out, your toes pointed out a little bit more. If your stance is wider and your toes are slightly out, it's gonna allow you to open up your hips better, right? So now as you become more comfortable with that, it doesn't need to be as necessarily controlled coming down, and you'll get more pop off the bottom, right? Because it just seems like, right now I can tell what you're trying to do is say, all right, I'm gonna try to force my knees out, I'm gonna try to get my hips back, I'm gonna try to do all these things. And you're thinking about it, but it's kind of going back, and that's perfect. I love that you're doing that. But it's one of those things that as you practice that, it'll become kind of second nature. And then you can be more explosive with it because you're more comfortable with it. Does that make sense? Yeah. That's awesome, man. Yeah. Easy up. Good. So try to set your feet a little bit more. That stability, right, from your feet, just try to set them in place and hold them there if you can. And then the other thing is just kind of the same thing. Get some more power to your hips. Your biggest muscles, throw them in there in the mix, and you should get more power out of that. Okay, so stop at the bottom and reset like you're gonna pull another one. Okay, so bar is right here, right? Yeah. So you've got that much of your body over the bar. So instead, roll it out, and then loosen up here. Don't try to drop your hips yet, not yet. Straighten your legs up. So you're there. So take that big breath, okay? We're gonna engage here and pull back, and as you come back, it's gonna come back here, right? So you're gonna feel a little bit like you're gonna fall back, right? So tighten up, back. Good. And you're honestly, we may need a little bit more weight on there too. So back, hips. Good. May need a little bit more weight for you to feel the position, but it's kind of essentially kind of the same thing I'm saying, but your leverage point, and I can tell you've done a lot of lifting because your spinal erectors are very strong, right? But the problem is your back, we can get you at a little bit better angle, and that angle will change the amount of weight you can lift. You'll lift more weight, 100%. But it's simple, right? Like you're not in a bad spot. Yeah. We just need those hips back a little bit. And then if we can get just a little bit more behind the bar, your leverage will be crazy, dude. It's gonna be silly, yeah.
Cheers.
All right, okay. So we have it's not bad. How when you break down, where do you break down? Like if you miss a lift, where do you miss it at? From the bottom. Yeah. Okay. So what we have to do is, I can tell that in your head a lot you think about pulling the bar. You're thinking about pulling it probably more. Am I right?
I have been concentrating more recently on trying to push. But...
Good. Okay. So you need to keep going with that, because the position that you're getting into, you're asking a lot of your back, right? And I'm sure that your back is plenty strong. It's just we have to tweak a couple things off the floor so that you can use your legs a little bit more is all. So let's go go set up in your stance again that you were using. So you're very, very narrow, right? Let's see, just take a half step out. We're not gonna change it a lot. Yeah, that's good, okay. So let's set your hands again and roll it away, okay? All right, so from here now, as you come back, your head is gonna be big for you, I think. So as you engage here, right, we're gonna try to also engage, lock up your back, so everything's gonna get locked. And then as you try to come back, pull back, pull back, pull back, good. There, right there. That's better, good. Okay, let's try that one more time. Back, good, there. That last little bit, if you could just do that a little bit more, hold, like, make it happen a little bit quicker with your back and where your hips get to. It's looking good. Let's try it one more time. So head comes up, go away a little bit more. So big breath, lock it in, lock it in, lock it in. Back, chest up, head up, head up, head up. Good job, yep. Yeah, good job. Back, head, up. I like it. I mean, your bar path is great, dude. Really good. If you can just get your hips back there, the stance looks good like that. Like I don't necessarily think you need to widen it up much more. You're getting really loaded into a good spot with this right now, right? So if it's just, we have to get your shoulders back, and I think your head is the key to getting your shoulders and upper back to lock in a little bit more.
Well, look like more than usual. So
Yeah.
I usually just like look like there.
Yep. And if it's coming like what you just said, where you're missing the lift, if that's where you're missing the lift, it's because your head's down, therefore your body's gonna follow that. Your hips are gonna shoot up, it's gonna go on your back a little bit more. So all those things are gonna happen, but by bringing your head up and just bringing your hips back a touch, locking in your back, now that's stable, right? And you're constantly trying to drive up. Now your hips are gonna come forward instead of go up. You see what I'm saying? So that's your key, right? And then that's what's gonna carry over to the bigger weights. Yeah, awesome, dude. Yep. Good stuff, guys. That was really awesome. I'm excited. I hope you guys pull some good deadlifts now.